Okay, welcome everyone. We're doing a deep dive today into these sources you've shared about, well, rock legends, the Rolling Stones.
That's right. There's always so much rumor, isn't there? Lots of reports flying around.
Exactly. So what's actually happening with them? Our mission here is to sift through these articles and reports you sent over.
Try and get a clearer picture, cut through some of that noise.
Yeah, figure out what's really going on. Are they winding down?
Yeah.
Or maybe not, because your sources hint at some pretty interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, potential new music, some changes in tour plans, maybe even a surprise festival spot being kicked around. Let's get into it.
Okay. Sounds good.
So, straight off, the core thing that just jumps out from these sources, the Stones. They're reportedly back in the studio.
Right. Specifically Metropolis Studios. That's in West London.
Metropolis, okay. And this is what, pretty soon after Hackney Diamonds in 2023, right?
Yeah.
That album did really well.
It did, yeah. That's
Yeah.
kind of the context here. Hackney Diamonds was like a huge deal for them. Well, it was their first album of original songs in like 18 years. And it didn't just, come out at hit #1.
Wow.
Yeah, and the reviews, according to these sources, were really positive. So it suggests people are still very much hungry for new Stones material.
So that success probably lit a fire, maybe got them back in the studio relatively quickly, based on these reports.
Seems likely, doesn't it? And the sources also mention who they're working with again, Andrew Watt.
The producer from Hackney Diamonds. What does bringing him back signal, do you think, given his track record?
Well, Watt's a big name, Grammy winner. He's worked with, everyone. Elton John, Pearl Jam, Ozzy Osbourne.
Lady Gaga, too. Right?
Exactly. So the fact the reports say they've teamed up with Watt, again, suggests they're probably, happy with that direction.
Kind of modern, but still rooted. The sound that seemed to click on the last album.
Precisely. It's quite telling, I think. 60 years in, and they're still making these kinds of creative choices.
And speaking of the sound, there was that one detail in the sources from a review, Mark Beaumont's review.
Oh, yeah, in The Independent. That was a great description. It mentioned Richards and Wood still doing those gritty glam and blues rock riffs.
Gritty glam, I like that.
Yeah. And Jagger, it said balls and yowls about modern stuff, almost like an eternal A-list 20-something.
Huh. Okay, so definitely not sounding like a band mailing it in.
Not at all, according to that take. It paints a picture of them being really engaged, still pushing.
And who exactly is in the studio? The sources clarify that too, right?
Yeah, the reports confirm it's the core guys. Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, Ronnie Wood, and Steve Jordan on drums.
Steve Jordan, right. Now, alongside the studio stuff, there's been chatter about touring, hasn't there? The reports mentioned some changes.
Uh-huh. Initially, the sources were saying plans to bring that huge U.S. tour over to the U.K. and Europe this summer. Summer 2025, that is.
Yeah.
Those plans had been scrapped. Some issues with promoters getting the dates lined up, apparently.
Right, okay. But then there was a twist in the material, wasn't there? Something more positive for UK fans.
Exactly. Right after those reports, the sources started suggesting that dedicated UK shows are actually being planned.
Oh, interesting. So not the full European leg, but specific UK dates.
That's the word, yeah. Supposedly, they'll announce them in the coming weeks. This comes after some earlier speculation about, venue problems or travel logistics being tricky.
So UK fans should keep an eye out then. That's pretty big news.
Definitely. They actually haven't played in the UK since 2022.
Which is the year after Charlie Watts passed away.
So it really reinforces this picture the sources paint. They're still a massive live act.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, really, 60 years on.
And that U.S. tour they just did, the numbers mentioned in the sources are just huge, almost $250 million, 880,000 tickets.
Phenomenal numbers. Shows the drawing power is still absolutely there.
And there was one other little live rumor mentioned, kind of a fun one.
Oh, yeah.
A fan hope, specifically highlighted in the sources, that maybe Ronnie Wood might pop up with Rod Stewart at Glastonbury during Rod's Legend slot.
Ugh, right. With his old mate Rod. It's just a rumor or a hope, like you said, but it shows the kind of buzz that's still around them.
It does. So, okay, let's try and synthesize this, pulling it all together from these sources.
Yeah.
What's the main takeaway?
Well, it's pretty clear, isn't it? The Stones are absolutely not winding down. Not even close.
Right. They're actively making new music. They're planning UK shows, it seems.
And there's still this huge, vibrant force in live music after all this time. 6 decades.
It really is a remarkable story when you lay it out like that, based on these reports. It speaks to, I don't know, longevity, obviously, but also that creative drive still being there.
And pragmatism, too, maybe.
Yeah.
Adapting the tour plans, keeping the show on the road, even if the original route changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Which kind of leaves you, the listener, with a thought, doesn't it? What does it actually mean for a band with this much history, this legacy, to still be putting out new stuff, planning big shows, according to these reports?
And how does their whole process, their sound, described in these reviews, still manage to connect with people, with fans and critics after 60 years? Something to kick around.